Holly and Don are back with us here for something a little bit less fun to talk about, and the president's tweets, the ensuing fracas, I think that's the right word. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the rest of the squad responded to the President of the United States in a press conference yesterday. Let's take a listen to what they said.
No matter what the president says, this country belongs to you. And it belongs to everyone.
And given the size of this squad and this great nation, we will not be silenced.
So, Don, I mean, we're now in the midst of a national discussion on this. I wish we weren't, but here we are. So how are we supposed to look at what's going on with the president and with this squad? Because there's a lot of overlaying issues, right? I mean, there's controversy on the Republican side about Ilhan Omar. Then we have the president's tweets. And then on the left, we have this Democratic intra-party, intranation warfare, which kind of started this whole thing. So just help us evaluate what's going on.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this over the last 48 hours, and here's where I am. The president's a racist. Of course, that's not a surprise. Republicans haven't condemned it writ large, en masse. Disappointing, but also probably at this point not a surprise. I think on a deeper level, though, the president is creating an economy in which whiteness as a commodity he's trying to bring back and assure to people that, listen, I didn't bring your jobs back to Schenectady and to Scranton. I didn't bring your manufacturing jobs back. My tariffs have hurt your farms and your small businesses, but you are still white, and I will protect the economy of whiteness for you in this country, and I will always attack the other. So remember that as we ramp up into this campaign season where Democrats are talking about women and LGBTQIA people and people of color, I will defend whiteness for you. I will tell these people to go back home so you can maintain the most important piece of your economy here, the most important commodity you have in this country, going back to our founding, which is your whiteness. And you will always be okay, and I will protect your place in this world, which is your whiteness. So that's kind of the take
obviously we have to give you a chance to
respond. So two things, and just real quickly, I mean, the president is not a racist, and the thing, his policies and what he has done for the country as a whole has benefited African Americans. I mean, they've seen the greatest jump in employment since his policies have been enacted. And so to say that it's not benefiting them and it's only benefiting white people is anyway. But
getting to a deeper
second of all, let's just move to something else. So are these tweets uncomfortable? Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. But if we step back and we take the emotion out of it and just look at the strategy behind it, I mean, Trump is playing a totally different game than his competitors are. And what he has done, I mean, you do not want to be Nancy Pelosi right now. He is putting all of the attention back on these four individuals, these four freshmen. Ilhan Omar has a 6% approval rating in nationwide polls. 6%. So for him to pivot his attacks on them, it forces the Democrats to go and defend them and embrace them, putting them back center, and all he's doing is attaching the Democrat Party to their policies and to their rhetoric.
I've heard this 40 chess argument. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but it definitely, it's true.
He's playing a different game, and it's called white supremacy.
No,
I mean, that's there's just no other way.
It's not too much.
There's no other way to look at this. When you tell a person of color who is an American citizen, most of whom born and raised here, to go back where they came from, that is a white supremacist construction.
But he's talking about economic issues.
It means that the country is only for people who look like me.
Here's the thing about Trump. Trump does not understand why what he said was wrong. He doesn't understand history. He doesn't understand many of the historical context on this. Yeah. He's not wired to understand it, and it's never going to happen.
So I agree with you. I'm not one to ascribe some type of strategy in historical context and philosophical context where there is none. He certainly has none. But it's easy to say let's take a step back and look at this unemotionally when you are now presented with an existential threat by the things that he says. If you are a transgender person, this president doesn't want you here. If you are a person of color,
that's not true. He has never said that.
Well, we know he doesn't want you in the military. We know he doesn't want you.
It's totally different.
We know that
Then say that.
No. The policy line, the lines that have been spoken by him and his party are very clear that he does not want you participating in the fullness of everything that this country has to offer. If you are a woman of color, if you are an immigrant, it is clear that this president does not want you participating. So it's easy to say he's not a racist. It's easy to say that we should take a... No, it's not. It's easy to say that we can take a...
There's a lot of nuance.
No. That's not nuance, because if his rhetoric presents an existential threat to you, then you cannot take a step back and look at this objectively or unemotionally. And it's easy to say that if the rhetoric doesn't present an immediate threat to you and your existence in this country.
The bottom line what's underlying this is an idea that the country, that Americanness is only reserved for white people.
No,
I mean, that is what's under.
That's not true.
That's what
that
it
is not
look,
true.
I will get, and look, I am the son of immigrants, and what I will get to is people are deeply offended. This is all about Ilhan Omar. That's where it all began, and if he had just kept it there, it would have been better. Which is, Ilhan Omar is a Somali refugee who came to this country, who has openly expressed support for Hamas, who has equated the United States military with Al-Qaeda, and that is deeply offensive to people in the United States.
Ilhan Omar is an American.
Yes, absolutely.
So I don't-
But she is un-American.
She
But-
is
and
not.
exactly-
No, and that's the fundamental problem. The great James Baldwin said, "I love this country so much that I reserve the right to criticize her into perpetuity." When a woman of color does that, who is a Muslim or who is an immigrant, that's the person we attack.
Okay.
I don't see anybody out here otherizing and attacking Tim Wise or so many of the other people.
If they said
white
the same
men who
things,
said-
I would attack them.
But the president
no,
has.
she's not
Absolutely.
un-American. She's
Wait.
fundamentally American
But the
for attacking.
president
She's an
has,
American citizen. There's
the
no
president
question about
does
it.
not.
Yeah.
He does not hold back his criticisms of people
Right.
who he deems to be un-American. Doesn't matter.
But
he
who
thinks
gets
Bernie
to
Sanders-
define what is
all of us
American?
do.
That's
Politics.
that's
That's
the point.
politics.
In
How
the
about
president's
saying we
world,
want to
white
change the
people get to
Constitution?
define what is American.
Wanting to tear up the Constitution, that is un-American.
No, it's not, because
Yes,
the Constitution
it
calls
is.
me 3/5 of a person. I'd love to tear that shit up. Let's do it. Let's do that again.
We
Don
also
always
should-
bringing the truth.
We also
I love
shouldn't
that.
lose the fact that the tweet was not just directed at Ilhan
Yeah,
Omar.
and that's why it was
directed
dumb.
at
It was
a group
four
of
women of
four.
color.
Yes,
women
it was
of
stupid.
color.
Perhaps
I mean, I'm not going to
Alexandria
defend it.
Ocasio-Cortez should go back to her country, the Republic of the Bronx.
Yes,
and
she's
that
from
made
New York.
people feel
There's
better.
no
Well,
question about it.
and she's
Yeah.
of Puerto Rican
She's
descent,
Puerto Rican
which is
Muslim
also
part.
part
Which
of
is also
America.
part of America.
But I think but what they have done is they have stood behind her and basically just amplified her views. And so
Oh, it's
when
gonna
he,
be a problem.
But
Yeah, I agree.
but when he says those four, it's because they won't call her out for her rhetoric.
For
Look,
what? What should she be called out for?
Oh my God.
Anti-American?
I mean,
What is
concentration
anti-American?
camps, like
No.
Yeah.
What is anti-Semitic? Concentration
Abolishing
camp.
ICE.
A concentration of
there-
people in a camp is a concentration
Wait, this
camp.
is a whole
That is not offensive to Jews. A concentration camp is a thing.
I didn't say it was
No,
offensive.
I'm not
Maybe
saying
it
that
is
was
offensive
Holocaust.
to
She
That
said
Jews.
wasn't
It
concentration
definitely is
but
to
her,
some, but
her past remarks have been extremely.
we have
anti-Semitic.
to- we have to move on.
Let me
because-
ask
yeah.
a specific question here, because we're not going to solve this one, unfortunately. Although I will say I am all for AOC being elevated within the Democratic Party, because she is the only person who understands the media environment and actually knows how to take on this president, in my view. However, the Democrats are voting on a resolution today. Well, the whole House is voting on a resolution today to condemn the president's remarks. Holly, how would you advise Republicans to vote on this?
That's a tough one. I mean, you know, I think if the Republicans try to be Trump, I think that's tough. But if they vote against it, it's
No, I mean,
It's politically perilous.
I'll
It
take
is.
the heat for you, Polly. They should
Yeah.
vote for it, because when they were supposed to vote for a resolution condemning Ilhan Omar
Yeah.
and anti-Semitism, the House watered it down to this complete BS version
Yeah.
about hate. They won't confront the same problems in their party, and every reporter on Capitol Hill is turned into a Democratic operative.
Isn't there a difference
going
between
to
the
surround?
President of the United States and a freshman member?
no.
In
There's
terms
not.
of its popular rhetoric, you just said
No.
these people are elevated to
not.
the top of the Democratic
They will-
Party,
that's
dominate our national media environment.
What
So it's
committee?
the same
What committee
thing.
does Ilhan Omar chair? I'm sorry.
I didn't say she was the chair of a
Does
committee.
AOC have a gavel? I mean, we're talking about these folks being elevated.
they're more
She has
powerful
the
than
same
every-
thing. She has the same thing that you do, which is a Twitter account. That's what she has.
And she's
so
very
who has
good at it.
elevated
She's
her
dominating
to
the
the top of the
national
party.
discussion.
No. We're talking
Yeah.
about the party is an actual thing. It's an actual corporate entity. What section of it does she lead? I don't know. So I wonder about this rhetoric. It's like, these are your leaders. These are the people at the top of the party. No, these are four women of color who it is easy to otherize and demonize, so you don't have to look within and talk about the real kind of ills in this country. Why are we not talking about Kevin McCarthy? Why are we not talking about the Green New Deal is Senator Ed Markey's as much as it's AOC's. You don't hear his name attached to it.
I don't, because AOC is the one who
She's the
dominates
one
the
that wants to
discussion.
talk about
More what I'm just getting at here is that, yes, it was bad. Republicans should condemn it. But if the Democrats are going to play this game, then we have to play the exact same game, which is you cannot feed into constantly having to condemn and all this other stuff when they refuse to do the same thing on their side. If we want to play an equitable game, then it should be equitable. But until that, it cannot be.
An entire segment of the American population and imply that they are un-American, I think that is something that all of our representatives should
What
stand
segment?
against.
He's not saying a whole. He's saying 4 people are un-American.
Who happen to all be women of color. Go back to your country.
Again, I suggest who decides what is American and what is
We do.
un-American?
All of us.
All of us do.
As
All of us do.
Americans.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Everybody, all these folks are American. There's an American as you and I. And unfortunately, to this president, there is an American. They are as American as he is. He does not get to decide. White people do not get to solely decide. And I'm not going back to that era. I'm not willing to go back to that era where white males solely decide who gets to participate in the fullness of this country and who is American. Because again, the four of us would be excluded from that discussion.
All right, well, we have to end it there. I'm sorry, but
Appreciate
thank you
both.
so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thanks for having me.
Tomorrow on Rising, we've got Bhaskar Sankari's got a new book out, Socialist Manifesto. It gives voice to a growing movement with Bernie Sanders as its figurehead.
Team Rising is going to be here, so we're going to see you all tomorrow.